So I know this for certain about life, and what was happening is they asked, or she asked, he says, "What's wrong with you? Tell me." And I said, at this point in my life, I can't tell you. I don't have a way to tell you. But today, I do. I have a way to tell you. And I know for certain about this life that our physical bodies, the way that we're physically put together, is we're elements. There's elements in the periodic table that make everything that matters in this world. Everything that is composed to exist is a force of physical properties. And our body is an electromagnet. There's no doubt about that. And it starts out as the smallest magnet. When we're just a little sperm in an egg, it gives us information of how that magnet is supposed to compose itself. Now, when I went through my physics class and I studied at CU Boulder, these things, these physical properties, are lots of different properties. Once you start adding elements, those elements start to grow. So you add a potassium grows. You add a magnesium grows. A calcium grows. And our bodies, believe it or not, are 70% diluted aluminum. Well, there's other things, there's other elements in this world that is a part of our bodies. And we can't avoid those elements. They're going to exist in our body, but we can reduce them. And some people can't reduce them because they have so much of that element inside of their body. Now, what is happening is this element that is destroying us could be lots of things. The calcium could destroy the magnesium. The potassium could destroy the calcium. And there's acids, different kinds of other elements. And what makes a high pH acid, I'm not sure that exact element, but I know that there's an element in our body that is acidic. Water is acidic. It's very corrosive. You wouldn't believe it, but water is a corrosive material. It is slightly corrosive to our standpoint, but it is very corrosive to other elements' standpoint. Water will destroy other elements in the periodic table. Now, what is happening is I'm getting sore. I am getting so sore, like I wake up in the morning and my body is stripped. If I take a break from this partner, I start to feel full. I do a detox and I do a nutrition. I put a new nutrition in my body and I rebuild my strength. And my body is so strong. Oh my God, every day is so strong on my own. But then I do a partner and I'm laying in bed for a week. And my strength that I feel for 3 months is completely stripped from my body. I know for certain about this life. It's completely stripped. Everything's gone. All that nutrition that I had created myself is gone, and it takes me months to regain that strength that I once have. You wouldn't believe it, that sleeping next to someone does that. Well, there's another thing I know for certain, that our body is a plant. Believe it or not. As much as, we are elements ourselves, and that our thoughts are radio frequency, the way that the electricity sparks in our brains. That if your radio frequency, your thoughts can't think that this is really real, that we are a plant, Well, that's okay because we know you're a plant and we know that that radio frequency can't think that way all the time. But knowing the facts, knowing for certain about physics, about biology, about genealogy, all those things, that what makes us human, what makes us alive, that we know that you're going to be existing. You're going to be a physical property and you're going to exist. And how you exist doesn't matter. We just know you exist. Other people can think and know and create how that existence occurs, and other people just exist, is the bottom line. So when I'm trying to explain in physics about the periodic table, about the elements, and I go in and I try to explain this to a person who can't think that way, who doesn't have the radio frequency to perceive how we exist in the world. They say, oh, I don't know. They just pass it off. Oh, yeah, whatever, that's make-believe. It's a thought of your imagination. Well, facts are a part of the imagination, but they're factual. And passing that off, that those facts don't exist, is a part of the imagination, and that's something that can be thought of, and that could be fact on your end, but that fact could be make-believe in reality. So just let's pass it off and know that we are plants. In the garden, if you've done any gardening at all, if you put plants too close together, one plant's going to kill the other. It's the bottom line. If anything, we can sleep together, we can do that, but there is some kind of symbiotic relationship there. If you grow the plants the exact same and give them the proper nutrients, they can live pretty close together and be fine. You can put pots together real close at night, and then you can spread them out so that they can get the light in the daytime. And they grow just fine, and they grow their whole life, and they can, however long that is, and it's a long life. It is the maximum life that the plant will get if you grow that way. If you put a plant that has some kind of property that is somehow a little bit stronger than the weaker plant is, that stronger plant is going to kill the weaker plant. Now, these physical properties that we're observing, I know for certain on this, is oxidization and how that is occurring and what is in our body that is causing it. Now, I don't know what it is, but there's strength in our bones, there's strength in our cartilage, there's strength in our tissues, and those strengths have a electromagnetic pull that causes regeneration of those properties. Your cartilage is going to regenerate itself. Your bones are going to regenerate itself. Your tissue is going to regenerate itself because it has an electromagnetic property there. I'm over here and my body is strong. I have strong tissues. I have strong bones. I have strong cartilage. But I don't have any insulation of that strength. I don't have oxidization in my body. And when you put that oxidization in your body, you're going to have that electromagnetic property, but that property isn't going to escape you. It's going to be more part of you. But what's tough about that is for regeneration. So when you're wanting to regenerate, when that property needs to expire to allow new properties to come into your body, it's going to be harder for that property to expire. And you're going to have an old property stuck within you, and it's going to be tough to get a hold of those new properties. And then that insulation value is going to make it harder for that electromagnetic part of your body to absorb ambient energies. There's ions and all kinds of things that exist in atoms of those elemental properties in the atmosphere around you. And to get that to absorb inside of you is going to be a little bit harder because you're going to have an oxidization there that's going to make it a little bit more insulated and harder for that electromagnetic field to reach out and pull in those atomic properties into your body to regenerate. How is this oxidation occurring? What is causing this insulation? Well, I know for certain about how my mom did this. And she had taught me because she had gone to college and got a bachelor's and was on to her master's before she had to quit college because of my brother, and he had disabilities and it was a little bit harder to live. But she got real smart and she always read books. My mom, unfortunately, was a little bit heavier set. She was about 280 pounds, okay? And my father, who lived with us in the household, was only about 220 to 250 pounds his whole life. What was funny is my parents were both cremated. My mother was cremated and my father was cremated. When my mother was cremated, her ashes were about the size of a softball, weighed about 2 pounds. When my father was cremated, being a lighter man, his ashes were about 7.5 pounds and huge, just a giant box of ashes. Now, these ashes are it's the oxidization inside your body. It is the most spent property that cannot be destroyed, that cannot leave you, that stays within your body. It is all those little energies and metallics and stuff that cannot disappear. It is the end of life, is oxidization. Oxides. It is more durable than obsidian. You could burn obsidian away and turn it into smoke. And this oxide, the ashes that are left, cannot leave because they will not burn away. That is the end of life. It is the end of the periodic table, the last of it. Whatever keeps it together, keeps it together. Well, what has happened is, this is what I know for certain. My father was a smoker, and my mother wasn't. And that is the reason why his body had so much oxides in his body compared to my mother. I know this for certain. Tobacco needs a little bit of mercury to grow. It won't grow any other way. It won't be a plant. It is a type of, a little bit of a corrosive, poisonous plant. And that's where we get nicotine and those different things that make us feel good when we're smoking. Well, it's tough. There's nicotine, and there's all kinds of other poisonous chemicals inside tobacco. And we blame nicotine for our addiction, but there could be a lot of other things. Some people say they're addicted to the feeling of smoke going into their lungs. Well, when you're smoking this stuff, you're putting a little drop of mercury inside your body every cigarette that you smoke. Every bit of that little bit of mercury is a part of an oxidization process. This diluted aluminum, this water that's inside our body, when you put a little bit of mercury to it, it destroys the water and causes an oxidization. The mercury will outlive the water. I think there's like isotopes where a water isotope is only going to live for 24 hours versus a mercury isotope that's going to live for 50 years. Well, you're going to need 50 years worth of daily water to cancel out the one mercury isotope. And it's going to be clean. Well, those isotopes, once they become a molecule, once they become a matter where they piece themselves together, they have you create nanoparticles. Once these particles are large enough, the body can excrete them, but it is going to be very long process for that excretion to happen. It's going to take a year. If you're a big smoker, it's going to take several years. And when you're doing this, when you're trying to excrete this, so much oxidization has occurred inside your body as a smoker that you're going to get sick. You're going to feel that once you quit adding all these extra periodic elements in your body by smoking, and that tingling feeling that you get when you're smoking is an oxidization process occurring, which feels kind of good because it's a new experience in your body and it feels tingly. So why not our radio frequency thoughts, say, wow, this is cool. It's causing a reaction. This reaction inside your body, it feels good. It feels great. It is an awesome reaction to feel according to your thoughts. But it's physically, if you look physically at it, the biological status of what is occurring, it is destroying you, even though your thoughts are thinking that this reaction is what is supposed to be feeling good about your life. Well, after we get past this, we understand oxidation, we understand that this mercury poisoning is occurring, all this stuff. Now we start to understand that because that oxidization exists inside your body, my father had 7.5 pounds oxidization versus my mother 2 pounds, and she weighs, 100 pounds more than father. You start to see that that oxidization is wearing out all those elemental properties inside your body. You're getting wore out. When you put a person next to someone and you sleep them together with a person who has a higher oxidization than the other, it feels so good to the person who has the higher oxidization, because that insulation factor that I said there, they don't have to worry at all, because you're connecting the source of all those elements, those nutrients, those tissues, those cartilages, those bones, and you put them next to a stronger electromagnet, because they have more of those conductive properties inside their body, those conductive periodic elements. It shorts everything inside the weaker body who has the less oxidization. There's no insulation there to protect myself. I don't have any oxidization in my body. And it strips all those energies and recharges all the energies inside the person who was deprived, who was starved of those different kinds of electricities. That's all what they are. That's what makes an atom. It's a different kind of electricity. They all have a different clock, a different rhythm, a different sync. And each one of those rhythms, they like to match up with the same rhythm. So that's where they're attracted to. So my cartilage is going to the other person's cartilage. My bone is going to the other person's bone. My tissue is going to the other person's tissue. And they're recharging. Their body feels recharged and they feel great. But at the same time, because that happened, it destroys me as a person. Now, in the example of my mother and father, my father having 7.5 pounds of oxidization, knowing that there was an amalgam in there. There was a mercury amalgam occurring. There was a potassium, a magnesium amalgam occurring more than my mother's body was having it occur. My mother got sick sleeping next to my father. She had to sleep in a separate room for 8.5 years. You can put me to blame for this, but me as a child, I says, I don't like this, Mom and Dad. I said, I don't like that you two don't sleep together. It is not normal. Moms and dads are supposed to sleep in the same room, and they're supposed to sleep together, and That's the way it goes. And I yelled at my mom and dad. I said, you guys are not acting normal. You need to sleep together or I'm just going to have to run away from home. And my mom, she got frustrated because she said to me, John, you do not understand why I can't sleep next to your father. And I says, yeah, I think it's just a part of your imagination. I said this as a child when I was 15 years old, 13 years old. And my mom started sleeping next to my father for another, 8 years. Because we needed it to be normal. We needed it to look normal. I did not at that time understand that a human being was an actual plant. That there needs to be some kind of separation there for each plant to grow healthy. And that was what my mom was doing, sleeping in a separate room from my dad for 8 years. And my mom, she felt great. Well, every morning, as soon as my mother and father started sleeping together, my father would wake up and he says, I feel great. And my mom would be practically throwing up in the toilet saying she feels really not too good. Well, after 8 years, my mother and father being about the exact same age, my mother dies at 55. She has a weak heart because of my father sleeping next to her. And I didn't know this. And it could be me to blame, it could be my father. But anyways, my father, just the physical properties in his body ended up killing my mother. I know this for certain. At 55, my father, being a smoker for 20 years and doing all this, lived to 63. He lived a great long life, but eventually, not having my mother there to recharge his body and the tons of extra oxidization inside his body had eventually killed my father at a young age too, at 63. Now what I want to tell you is you asked me why I cannot be there, why I cannot sleep there all those extra nights. It is literally killing me. Literally. And I try to sleep in a separate room and it's not normal. And I try to say that we're a plant and no, we're not plants. And I try to say that, have you ever studied physics? No, I don't need to study physics. Maybe I'll study with you tomorrow. Okay, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I literally have to look at you as a plant and you do not know how to think and you do not know the facts of life, and I don't mean to be cold, but as much as it hurts me every day is to be a strong person and to just be stripped of everything, all of that strength that I had, put myself together without oxidization in my body, without any poisons in my body, and for it to just disappear extremely hurts me. It hurts so bad. And if me not being there to sleep next to you, to feel good, it hurts, is what I'm told. When I leave, it doesn't feel good anymore, and it hurts really, really bad. Well, what do you expect? It hurt me just as bad to be there with you as it's going to hurt you to leave. So guess what? You're on your own. You're going to have to put a 5-foot distance between us, and if you need to put 2 pots together for a night, that's okay, but that's for a night. And then you got to separate those pots so those plants can live normal, healthy, long, full lives the way that they were going to live. Not how we should live, how you're going to live and how I'm going to live, and that's going to be the health. I'm going to obviously be a strong person once I get my nutrients back, once I detox. But if you do not quit smoking, if you do not think about the real physics and biology, and you don't clean your body out and you don't try to do something to make yourself a little bit better person, you're going to live a shorter life. It is a fact. But you can live a shorter life being a healthy person, having no oxidization in your body and just a little fat, just by simply sleeping next to a person who was living a little unhealthy for some of their life. And you can die a short life just from living unhealthy. But to live a long life, you have to give them that space because they're really plants. And when I go into this about that little bit of health, you can live a lot longer life if you change your habits, and it's not going to feel good. And you have to understand that you have a lot more oxidization in your body than someone else, and that is what causes you your weakness and what causes you your pain, because it is constantly wearing you out. You have to live with that, and that was the choices that individual made, and that every individual has that chance to make better choices. But to ignore the facts that those elemental connections exist, that's just a plant. They don't know how to think the facts of our existence. And for someone to be a little bit smarter and to have gone to college and be able to tell you that, learn from me, be a god, be a goddess, and give us that space to grow. We need it. I can be there. If I slept in a separate room and I only had to, kiss someone for 20 minutes at the night, that's okay. That's not going to hurt me. But to be there sleeping in bed for 8 hours and just to be constantly stripped of everything inside my body, it hurts me so much more than you know. That if you're getting hurt because I'm gone, I'm getting hurt because I'm there. And you're going to have to learn that you're going to hurt your way and I'm going to hurt my way. And it's going to hurt that way. We're going to have that space between us that's just going to hurt all the time. And as much as you want to say love, but don't you love me? I do love you, but I can love you for 20 minutes and that's it. And I can love you in my heart and have love in my heart for whatever time that we love each other again. But we're going to need that space to love each other. We can't love each other, touching each other physically all the time like that, because it is just too much. I'm dying because of it. Quickly. Very, very quickly. And I cannot get my strength back because I don't have that atmosphere to get that strength back. And I need that in my life. And for me to be told, tell me what's wrong. Oh, you can't tell me. I didn't have a way to tell you then, because that's exactly what was going on. But I have a way to tell you right now. I have a way to tell you today that I love you and I'll always love you, but I'm going to need space to love you. And if I don't have that space, I have to leave to get that space, or I'm dying. You're killing me quicker than I can become alive again. And that is why I have to walk out that door, because I'm so dead. I'm so stripped of everything inside my body that if I don't leave, it's going to kill me. And if you gave me a little bit more space, I wouldn't have to do that as often. And me, it's to the point that a person who has got so much strength in their body from their age of maturity to where they are the strongest plant that they can be, it's getting stronger and is hurting me more as time goes on. And there's a point where if we cannot change together, I have to change completely and I have to totally just be gone. And that is the way that I can tell you today. And if we can function and if we can have that space and we can sleep in separate rooms and see each other for 20 minutes on those days that we see each other for 20 minutes, I can live that way for a little bit longer. But if we cannot make those changes, I can't live it. I can't live any of it. I, there's just no way. And I know that 100% certain now, as an adult, halfway through maturity of being a 100-year-old human being. That is life. And if you study it and understand it, congratulations for you. If you don't want to study it and you can't understand it, the people who know better are always going to know better, and they're going to just tell you how it is. It's got to be this way, and you don't get your way because you do not understand it at all. And I would hope you can understand that perception a little bit of what really exists in this world and how it affects us. All right, have a good one.